Hi everyone, and I welcome you all to this session on how to very effectively prepare mains exclusive topics. Um, I'm going to make this video private because I want to keep it slightly informal and really short too. So most of the content I have already shared, most of my insights are already shared in the group. Uh, this video just intends to consolidate all of that knowledge in a very short video and to give you a primer of sorts on how to get started with preparing mains exclusive topics, or even topics which are overlapping with prelims, but from the perspective of mains, right? So it's a 5-point strategy that I've listed on the group. The strategy is fairly simple. So first of all, you understand the syllabus and you parse, you break down the syllabus keywords. And I gave a couple of illustrations in our last meetings. I have also shared my document wherein I have tried to parse the internal security syllabus. I'm going to open that too. And then we'll briefly discuss about what is the utility of parsing through the syllabus and what do I exactly mean when I tell you to understand the syllabus. That is step number 1. Step number 2, you map the syllabus keywords with previous questions so that you understand the extent of the questions that are coming in the actual paper. Because in the end, if you analyze previous questions thoroughly on any topic, you would realize 70% of them are directly repeated. So if you prepare these themes really well, essentially 70% of your task is taken care of. Step number 3, refer one standard source. To each their own. There are some people who believe they need to refer multiple sources to get more depth. I don't believe in that at all. I believe even for mains, howsoever exhaustive you think the preparation needs to be, you just need to refer one standard source. That could be a book, depending on the subject. That could be coaching, coaching notes, or that could be Topper's notes. I have already recommended for you guys to refer to AIR 17's notes in case you are looking for my recommendation. Otherwise, if you're enrolled in any coaching center, or maybe anybody else, maybe some topper that you're following has recommended a book for internal security, feel free to refer that. But refer just one standard source and only read to the extent that it helps you in solving the previous questions. My recommendation is go to AIR 17's channel from 2021. Go to her channel, download her notes. They are pure gold, in my opinion, in the sense that they can easily be emulated in the examination. They're really relevant and they're really in line with the demand of the exam. That would be my recommendation. Step number 4. Once you have done these 3 first steps, you need to then refer 10-15 toppers copies on the subject you're preparing. I have already pinned a message on my group wherein you'd find around 20-25 names being mentioned. Those are the names whose copies I found most relevant across the board from GS1 to GS4. So feel free to go over, just select any 10-15 of them and go through their copies and try to extract maximum out of what they've done. How should you extract the maximum? I have one illustration to show. I showed that illustration in the meeting. For people who missed out on the meeting, can look at that part from this video. And finally, step 5 is now jumping to answer writing on the subject. So this already we are starting. We're going to have 3 sessions, in the sense that we'll have 3 sessions for 50 marks each. What constitutes a session? I'll give you the questions. 50 marks worth of questions, 2 10 markers, 2 15 markers, and then you submit the questions on the group. If you're not looking for dedicated evaluation, you will have peer-to-peer review and you'll have a community belongingness. In case you're looking for dedicated evaluation of sorts, you submit the answers to the ID I mentioned on the group. And my only deliverable, as I have clearly mentioned on the group, is going to be an improvement in your answer writing. I will not necessarily paint the entire sheets with a red pen, because that is not the intent. The intent is to improve your answer writing. And if you trust my methodology, be rest assured I'm going to take care of it, right? So number 5 is going to be taken care of with the initiative. I will illustrate number 4. I will illustrate number 1. I will also illustrate number 2. And this I leave to your judgment. If you have a book in mind or if you have a coaching notes in mind, feel free to refer there. If you want my recommendation, I have recommended this, 5 to 10 times already until now in the meeting. Also, even on the group, I have mentioned these are the notes. In my eyes, these are gold standard. So let's jump to part 1, part 2, part 4, and let's be done with the video so that we give you this primer of sorts. So syllabus, I think I've shared this sheet that I made on the group right here, right? So I think these are some of the syllabus pointers. Can you see the screen? Okay, it's slightly lagging, I don't know why. So GST security. So there is one of the keywords, one of the syllabus heads is linkages between development and spread of extremism, right? So what constitutes, so there are some keywords. The first keyword is development, another keyword is extremism, right? So development, so I start with the keyword development. There could be two potential, you could see development from two prisms. Either the development is low in the region or it is high. If it is low, it'll lead to discontentment, it'll lead to radicalization. People are easy to indoctrinate. People can easily form subversive elements, can form negative narratives. That is what happens when the development in the area is low. On the other hand, if the development is high, if the development is not inclusive, if the development is not equitable, there are cleavages in the society. Then, of course, if the development is high, you will have more disposable resources, even with people who are part of the subversive, who are the subversive elements of the society, and they will have more wherewithals to indoctrinate people. So that is how I try to expand the syllabus. That is how, before jumping to any standard source, I try to brainstorm over the syllabus keywords by myself. How do you do it? I can't give you a one size fits all. How have I been able to do it? I have read this over and over again, and that is how I have developed that intuition. My intent through this video is to give you a starting point and show you the method. Maybe you can emulate this method in a much better way by yourself, but this is a starting point. And I'm certain if you start brainstorming over syllabus by yourself, you'll get in the knack of being able to generate n number of points on any given question. So another thing that happens with high development is there's an increased gulf, lack of inclusive development. So what's the solutions? How all of this is related to spread of extremism, or what does spread of extremism do? So extremism leads to decreased social capital, and I have listed some examples that I could think of from top of my head. So Aurangzeb, led to disintegration of Mughal polity eventually, because he was not tolerant enough. Maybe Afghanistan Taliban. I could think of then, Iran after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. There was a spread of extremism. ISIS civil war also has extremism at its edifice. Northeast insurgency in Nagaland. Left-wing extremism spread in, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Telangana. There are pockets of impoverishment in these states. Then, of course, extremism, then you need more funds on security. So then you have less funds for welfare and development, for health. That is another perspective that you could think of. Then, of course, this consequently leads to less investment, because any private enterprise would not want to set its base in a region marred with extremism. Then, of course, consequently reduced tax base, increased loss of lives, livelihoods, right? Poor law and order. That is how I'm generating points. I'm generating points using the GS-based syllabus. Point from polity, point from society, point from economy, point from security itself. And how have I been able to do it? How is this so intuitive to me? I have gone through the syllabus over and over again n number of times. And my entire intent, again, I would reiterate with the video, is to give you a good starting point. I'm sure that enough practice, you would be able to perform 10 times better than what I have been able to deliver in the session, right? Similarly, what are the other heads? Another head is role of external state and non-state actors in creating challenges to internal security, right? So what is the role, or what are the potential roles of external state? So roles could be funds, providing overground workers. It's a theme repeated from previous questions. Or providing organizational support, logistics, arms, ammunition, human resource training, radicalization, safe haven, contiguous border areas. Um, External state, I related with Pakistan's deep state. Then, challenges to internal security, insurgency, lone wolf attacks, rioting, mob vigilantism. Again, that is a theme which has featured in the previous questions. Novel threats, drones, bioterrorism, piracy. Um, I think now you're understanding the lack of what I'm trying to convey. You, before jumping to any standard source on the subject, you just sit there quietly for an hour, for a couple of hours, just have a look at the syllabus and try to brainstorm and try to think of different dimensions which are related to the keywords that are mentioned in the syllabus. So again, let's look at this. Uh, Security challenges and their management in border areas, linkages of organized crime with terrorism. So challenges are infiltration, drones, surgical strikes. This theme of Myanmar has come in again and again the previous questions. Then you have smuggling of arms, guns, trafficking of people, children, cattle, organ harvesting, n number of ways you could open it and expand it. And I didn't read a book when I I opened the dimensions. Then when I was reading the book, these same ideas kept on getting reinforced, and that gave me the confidence that I have enough overarching understanding of the subject so that I can write a decent answer. Because in the end, the examiner will not know the number of hours you have spent. The examiner will only see your note copy, and that should reflect a fair amount of understanding, a fair amount of intelligence, so to say. Then, another head is various security forces and agencies and their mandate. So, we know that third largest defense budget in the world. Security paradigm, we have intelligence, police for routine law and order, military, army, navy. So that is how I'm expanding the syllabus using my commonsensical knowledge or the basic knowledge that I've accumulated over the past 4 or 5 years. Then CISF, I have made a map. This is where ITBP is posted. Shastra Seema Bal, BSF, CRPF, just the basic source. Just any basic source will give you this information. Um, then you have financial intelligence unit, raw, IB, NIA. These are the intelligence units in the country. DRI, NCB, ED, CBI. Then this is a life cycle based approach. What do you do before a terrorist attack takes place? You have to surveil, you have to have actionable intelligence, you build your capacity while the attack is happening, while something unfortunate is happening, you focus on giving a quick response, providing relief. In pre, you can think about increasing awareness, improving anticipation, strong laws. After it has happened, you have to focus on investigation, prosecution, quick, and ensure compensation to victim. So with this life cycle based paradigm, I can write n number of points on a question, if it comes from the perspective of terrorism. I have thought of different dimensions. So again, if and when I'm going to read these topics from the book, the same ideas will get reinforced in my. And if you've seen that movie Inception, that was so beautiful in so many ways. And there was this one beautiful point that was made in the movie, which I think also goes beyond the purview of fiction, which essentially said that if an idea comes from within yourself, it is more likely to stick. So if you generate all of these points by yourself, the ideas are more likely to stick rather than going to a standard source, going to a book and trying to cram all of that, trying to learn. Of course, it's a phase you're going to have to go through that grind. But before you do it, or maybe let's say after you refer a source, please brainstorm yourself and please try to think of these dimensions by yourself. Because if you do, it'll lead to long-term retention, better long-term retention. Right? Then I brainstormed over these same points again, maybe I think a month later. And then I was able to generate more points. So let's say extremism, I was able to open it in terms of ideology, religion, class, ethnicity, radicalization, indoctrination. And then I'm going to freely use these keywords in the answers. Then I said, lack of development leads to increase in extremism. Inequitable development also leads to lack of restorative justice, land acquisition issues, displacement, isolation also propagates extremism. Development in terms of technology. So let's say the subversive elements have now the access to social media and technology or fintech also indirectly aids in increasing extremism. On the other hand, inclusive development reduces extremism. So I have tried to open thread where the interlinkage between development and spread of extremism. I have tried to open different dimensions uh, as far as the capability of my mind went. Um, so then the other dimension was role of external state. Again, similar point that I mentioned. Maybe I think maritime security is one additional dimension I opened here. Um, role of media. Media could be thought of from the prism of print or broadcast, intelligence, financing, safe havens, recruitment. Again, similar to what I mentioned in the previous pages. Then there's another head which says basics of cybersecurity. So data security is an important component. What, why of the cybersecurity? What are the national or international steps? What are the recent examples? So recently, I think even Ames, there was a server crash, probably due to hacking of the servers. So by reading current affairs, maybe you could interlink these recent tidbits of information and use them to your advantage in your answers. Then money laundering, financing, hawala, security challenges, right? So I think this is all about opening the syllabus threadbare. And of course, I'm not saying that all of this is comprehensive. It is only an entry pass, and they should show you the direction of how to expand the syllabus head by yourself. And what do I mean by creating interlinkages between the syllabus? And what do I mean when I tell you that you should brainstorm over the syllabus yourself? Let's come to previous questions. So I've tried to map all the questions. So this was before 2022 mains. So that is why you won't find questions from 2022. But then, if you have a look at questions from 13 to 2021, you'll see certain things being repeated over and over again. So you look at every second year, there's a question on cyber attack, impact defensive measures. ठीक है. अब देखो, Satara maybe they have asked threat and security. Bees may have they asked a question cybercrime types, measures to fight. Now, do you see the theme being repeated over and over again? 15 may they ask a question on cyberspace. Again, there a question of cyber domain use. Of course, nobody in the entire nation, let me assure you, would have very specific content on cyber domain. But if you have generic content on cyber issues, you copy and paste that without being really specific about it. You would get better marks than the rest of the competition. Now, you will never come to a point wherein you'd have very specific points on bounds of questions like this, Cyberdome. But if you know about cybersecurity, if you have an overarching understanding, you write better answers, much better answers than your competition. Then you have a question on data security. This was contemporary back then in 2018. Then cyber warfare again being asked. So the same theme is getting repeated over and over again. Again, you look at India, Myanmar. Now count how many times has it been repeated. I think 2022 also it came. Then Northeast insurgency again related to Myanmar issue. Then again hot pursuit related to Myanmar issue. Then where do you see it again? You see it in 2019 again, India Myanmar border challenges. Then you see it again, border management again. 2013 you see border management South Asian Myanmar. Same issue being repeated over and over again. So if you prepare it well with one basic source and maybe you value add from wherever you want, value addition would happen if you refer to 10 to 15 toppers copies. That is enough. And then you come to practicing these questions. I think consecutively it asked questions on CPEC because it was contemporary. 14 it asked a question on CPEC again. It asked a question on CPEC. Left-wing extremism 18 question was asked. 18 this question was asked. Then 20 question was asked. I think even in 22 a question was asked. 2015 a question was asked. So directly they're picking up pointers from the syllabus, and the syllabus of this topic is limited. Every year you have questions worth 50 marks. Now do you see the themes getting repeated over and over again? Of course you do. Money laundering, emerging tech, globalization. This year also there's a question on money laundering and emerging tech, something on similar lines. Again, you have a question on money laundering. Where do you have the question on money laundering? Here you have a question on 18 also the question was asked. 13 the question was asked. The same themes are getting repeated over and over again. Again, even at the cost of sounding redundant, you prepare these specific themes and have value addition already ready so that answering them in the examination hall is a matter of your muscle memory, and that will take you to places. That is my take. So I think we've spoken about reading the syllabus keywords and internalizing them and opening them and brainstorming over them. Then we've spoken about how to map those keywords with previous year questions, and how previous year questions are the lighthouse to preparing for mains. Uh, I think I've spoken about referring one standard source, whichever you deem fit. I have given you my recommendation also. Number 4, you can, yeah, in the end, you have to analyze 10 to 15 toppers copies. So I think this is one sample that I have with me right now. And I think so. You refer GS3 copies of these toppers, and for internal security, question number 9, question number 10, question number 19, question number 20. These 4 questions will feature from internal security. ये 4 क्वेश्चन देख लेना. एक क्वेश्चन मैं एनालाइज करके दिखाता हूँ कि क्या एनालाइज करना है और कैसे एनालाइज करना है. बड़ा क्वेश्चन एनालाइज करते हैं. लेट्स एनालाइज द 15 मार्कर. 20वां क्वेश्चन करते हैं एनालाइज. ठीक है, राइट. लेट्स सी क्वेश्चन क्या है. क्वेश्चन कह रहा है मिसयूज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया. क्वेश्चन इज ऑन सोशल मीडिया. ठीक है, मिसयूज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया has emerged as a new threat, ठीक है, to internal security. This is a prelude. I think I've spoken about a prelude. So let's say if the prelude was absent, and let's say the question started from elaborate with examples, suggest suitable strategies. So you would have to write a different answer. If the examiner gives you a prelude, maybe initially it might seem irrelevant to you. कि क्या लिख दिया, क्यों लिख दिया, I'm not going to address it. But then you lose out on potential marks. So always address the prelude. Always tell the examiner that yes, I have understood the demand of the question. How do you do it? By first addressing the prelude if there is one. Number 1. So there's one prelude. Then it says elaborate with example. So you have to address the prelude and then elaborate with the example. That is the first part. Then it says suggest suitable strategy for countering threats with special emphasis on IT. So this is question number 2. This is question number 2.5. So it is not exactly asking you details about the intermediary guidelines, but it is asking about that in a tangential way, in a way that you have to interlink with the strategies that need to be taken care of to handle the threats that emanate from social media. So I think this question has 2.5 parts in my eyes, 1 prelude. Let's see how the topper has approached. So social media is a double-edged sword with transformative potential, but it poses many security challenges as well. Great. Introduction is good. You can pick out keywords in case you're starting from scratch. Pick out these keywords. So you say double-edged sword, use it freely, liberally. Transformative potential, right? These keywords add value. Ideally, these keywords should come from within yourself, but they will only come after you have a certain amount of reading. If you're preparing with very limited content, these toppers notebooks are a ready-made primer for you to pick these keywords from. Then you say misuse of social media. Right? Misuse of social media, you have to elaborate with examples. So she has spoken about the misuse first and with examples. So she has given 6 points. So recruitment by ISIS. Okay. New Zealand terrorist attacks. So these examples, you can make a note of these examples. And you can, again, you would be able to use these examples in multiple places. Only make a list of examples which you can use in multiple places. So then you can fuel disharmony. So she has substantiation for every point. It adds value to your answer. Then says rumors and mob lynching, Jharkhand, rumors, propaganda, extremism. These are good keywords. Propaganda, rumors, disharmony, then cybercrime, cyberbullying, cyber frauds. Great points overall. Then she comes to the second part of the question. So there's a need to effectively control the use of social media through strategies. Promoting culture of self-verification. Great point. Then she has an example, PIB fact check. Great. So you can make note of this case study, PIB fact check. You can use it in a number of ways. Or maybe whenever there's a question on cybersecurity, which you've seen every second year, there's a question on cybersecurity. You can make use of this point. Always you can make use of a point like self-verification, need of self-verification. Then collaborating with tech giants. Collaboration is a point which can be used n number of ways in n number of questions. Christchurch call to action, another keyword, another strategy. Implementing digital media and IT rules, which have provision for identification. So now after a certain point in time, you'll see that she also has limited content. It's all a matter of using that limited content, recycling it in a way that your answer seems relevant. I have repeated it in number of times. I mean, similarly for justice, we hear that not only do you have to dispense justice, but justice should also be seen to be dispensed. So not only do you have to write relevant answers, your answers should also seem relevant to whosoever is evaluating. And these are the broad ways of how to write answers that seem relevant. Your header should be clear. The first part was misuse of social media. Elaborate. So her header is really clear. Examiner is not going to spend more than 40-50 seconds in evaluating. If the examiner sees clear heads, sees good number of points, and mildly relevant content, going to get great marks. Misuse, then you see the second head that she mentions strategies directly picked up from the language of the question. Then good points, good keywords, substantiation, basic ingredients to score really high. And the devil lies in detail. I mean, in theory, it sounds really easy to emulate, but it's all a matter of practice. The first time you're going to write the answers, you'll go blank. Even these, simple tactics will not come to your mind. And with deliberate practice, you would come to a place wherein you'd be able to write good, relevant, meaningful answers. Banning extremist content, basic. Thus, social media has, so now then she concludes with, social media has become a potent force in modern time, allowed into a social mediocracy. Beautiful keyword. Again, you can find this keyword in her notes also. So that is how you analyze. So I have only analyzed one single question from one topic copy and see the amount of impact, see the amount of value it has added to your life. I'm certain it has. Now imagine how much value will be added to your life if you uh, discuss or if you analyze 4 questions from each topic copy. You have 10 to 15 topic copies. So nearly if you analyze 40 to 60 questions, that'll be a master pool, and you'll have a broad pool of content which will enable you to answer any question which has been asked in the previous question. So I believe that is my take on how to prepare for mains exclusive topics. In case you vibe with my way of doing things, if you trust me, follow this way. If you think you have a better way, follow that way. But I am certain that this works on the ground. I had to learn the hard way, and I have seen it work year in year out. I am sure this adds value. I made this video private because right now I don't want to make it too formal. Maybe in times to come and I'll have more bandwidth, I'll maybe produce a more formal version and then put it out in the public domain. So yeah, I think that is about it. We're going to start the answer writing from Friday and then we'll take it up from there. Good night and take care.